This sounds insano, but work with me here because it's not. What's stopping Tennessee players or any college football players from just coming back to college? We've already seen the Diego Pavia lawsuit go in his favor. So he gets to play, I think, 30 more years at Vanderbilt. And I don't know what's stopping other players from saying, hey, things didn't work out in the NFL. I mean, Tyler Bray can probably still sling it. How long has he been out of the NFL?
Ooh, Tyler Bray has been out of the NFL. What was his last year? I would say, so he's 33 years old. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up now.
Okay, well,
it was 2020. He was a backup for the Bears in 2020.
Okay, so what would stop him from saying, I really like this Josh Heupel guy. I think I'm going to go back to school. I mean, it sounds absurd. And here's the way, for those that don't know, the way the old rule worked. The old rule was your clock started when you actually spent the night on campus. And I know that rule because of the Lane Kiffin departure. So there were some guys that spent the night on campus. Ed Orgeron was telling them not to go to class, which he's probably done before in different circumstances. But that didn't matter if they went to class. Once you spend the night on campus, that's when your clock started. Now, that was for midterm guys. So the other way your clock would start is you would sign your national letter of intent and then you would enroll. So you would have it's going to be 5 to play 5, but you had 5 to play 4. And I just look at a lot of guys that, a lot of times they don't handle their money particularly well. I mean, would you be stunned in your lifetime if a guy went to the NFL and then came back to college?
I mean, no, and they would sue to do it. So here's what's going to happen. They'll have to sue. They'll have to take it to court because this Diego Pavia lawsuit is going to limit it to junior college years, not counting against your eligibility. That's going to be where the lawsuit starts. I think the NCAA would maybe be on some solid ground to say, even if you say that junior college can't count against your eligibility, going to the NFL, you can't come back. There's like agreements on that. They can maybe be on some sort of solid footing, but they would have to defend themselves in court. And you're right. It's not crazy to think that in a temporary injunction, they would lose that battle. And some rando who flamed out in the NFL after leaving early comes back and tries to get into the year of college. That's very possible. So, I mean, it's crazy to think about out of left field, but it's not out of the realm of possibility given the recent rulings. So
I think it's a likelihood. Are you willing to go that far?
Ooh, a likelihood. No, I'm not going to go likelihood. I can't go likelihood. I actually think the NCAA would be on solid ground ruling against somebody coming back to college. I think a court would mostly side with them on that front. I could be wrong, but
well, and that being said, I mean, it wouldn't be a great look for the player. You couldn't cut it in the NFL, so you're going to go back and play with kids, basically. But I think we've seen the development of strength and conditioning coaches and what they're doing now. And I mean, guys, they just don't look like, when I started covering guys, John Henderson stood out because he was so big. There's a John Henderson out there that size. These guys are bigger and stronger and faster. So I don't know that they would necessarily want to take a step down, but man, Dylan says I'd take Hendon and Hyatt back in a heartbeat.
Well, Hendon, didn't you go to Hendon is a different year because thing altogether, because there is technically no eligibility for Hendon, and it's not because of junior college. So so there's two things we're trying to address here. The Diego Pavia lawsuit specifically says that years you played in junior college should not count against your eligibility of playing at a 4-year school. Someone's going to expand that to years you played like at a non-Power 5 school soon enough. Book it. But what Hendon Hooker would have to do would have to come out and say eligibility by it on its own, on its face, is a violation of antitrust. So I should be allowed to play college football for as long as I want, no eligibility. The other part of that would be, so yeah, Hendon Hooker, I just brought that up. The other issue would be like with Tyler Bray. Tyler Bray would sue to say, hey, I didn't use all my eligibility in college football and I went to the pros. Not letting me use my remaining eligibility in the NCAA since I left after my junior year, that's an antitrust violation and you're not allowing me to make more NIL money.
But let me take it a step further. Why do you even have a clock on your eligibility? I mean, with the way these rulings are going, that wouldn't stun me.
That's the Hendon Hooker argument, would be the Hendon Hooker argument. And the truth of the matter is, if we spin off college football as employees of the university where they just have the name brand on their shirt, I mean, Dave, it's not crazy to think about what you're thinking about. Like, it's one thing if people say you're out of a league because you're too old to play. But if they're like, you could literally sue and say there's collusion by the owners and by the owners of college football, whoever runs it, to say that we can only play 4 or 5 years and that limits our market value. You're not off base, honestly, with that. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't know the precedent. Are there regular private companies anywhere with like employee? I mean, I guess, yeah, because remember, think about this. There's a lot of jobs that have temp employees that are like, you only work here for 2 years and that's it. So the NCAA could technically get away with saying you agree to a 4-year contract. You only work here for 4 years and that's all you can get paid for. That's how that would work. So I think they'd be on solid ground with that because so many other businesses are on solid ground with that.
Okay. I'm going to put it as a poll question. Should players be allowed to come back to college after the NFL?